My son draws the same person in every picture. Yesterday, that person knocked on our door. My 6-year-old son, Alex, has always been artistic. Every day after school, he sits at our kitchen table with his big box of crayons and draws for hours. But for the past 3 months, every single picture has featured the same mysterious woman. Long dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, bright green eyes, always wearing the same red winter jacket. Sometimes she's standing by a tree in what looks like a park, sometimes sitting alone on a bench, sometimes just her face filling the entire page. I asked Alex who she was countless times, and he'd always give me the same answer. Just a lady I made up in my head, Dad. I figured it was completely normal for kids to have imaginary friends or recurring characters in their artwork. My ex-wife used to draw the same horse over and over when she was Alex's age. But something about these particular drawings felt different somehow. The level of detail was incredible for a 6-year-old child. The woman's face was always perfectly proportioned, always featuring the exact same facial features, like Alex was drawing from memory rather than pure imagination. I asked his teacher, Mrs. Garcia, if Alex drew this mysterious woman at school too. She confirmed he did, constantly, during art time and free drawing periods. She'd asked him about it multiple times, but he'd given her the identical answer, just pretend. But Mrs. Garcia mentioned something that really stuck with me. She said Alex always drew the woman watching something, like she was observing from a distance, never participating. Last Tuesday night, I found Alex in his bedroom at almost midnight, wide awake and drawing by his desk lamp. The same woman again, but this time she was standing outside a house that looked exactly like ours, complete with our blue front door and the distinctive oak tree in our yard. I asked Alex why he wasn't sleeping, and he said he'd had a vivid dream about the lady and needed to draw it before he forgot the details. Wednesday afternoon, our neighbor Rita mentioned seeing Alex talking animatedly to someone by our back fence after school. When she looked more closely, no one was there. Alex was just standing by himself near the gate, having what appeared to be a full conversation with empty air, nodding and responding to unheard questions. Thursday, Alex's drawings changed in a way that made me uncomfortable. The woman was progressively closer to our house in each new picture. First standing by our mailbox, then on our front walkway, then on our porch steps, then looking directly through what was clearly our living room window. The progression was subtle but absolutely unmistakable. Friday afternoon, Alex came home from school acting completely different, much more quiet than usual, kept looking out our front window like he was expecting someone to arrive. When I asked if everything was okay at school, he just nodded silently and went straight back to his drawings. Saturday morning, I woke up early and found Alex's newest artwork taped to the refrigerator. The woman was standing directly at our front door with her hand raised like she was about to knock. The detail was so incredibly precise I could see the individual buttons on her red jacket and the small bird pin on her lapel. Saturday evening at exactly 6:30, someone knocked on our front door. I looked through the peephole and felt my blood turn to ice water. Standing on our front porch was the exact woman from Alex's drawings. Same dark hair in a ponytail, same bright green eyes, same red winter jacket, everything down to the silver earrings Alex had somehow captured perfectly in crayon. I told Alex firmly to stay in his room and approached the door with my phone ready. The woman knocked again, 3 deliberate taps, and then spoke in a voice that made my stomach drop. "I know you're there, Michael. We need to talk about Alex." I've been waiting for the right time to explain. I'd heard that voice before, but couldn't place where. "Who are you?" I called through the door. "My name is Sarah. I used to take care of Alex before you moved here, before you changed his name." Alex appeared behind me, and when he saw her through the window, his face went white. "She found us, Dad." And that's when I realized what Alex had been trying to warn me about. My hand trembles on the doorknob. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself, knowing that whatever happens next will change everything. Alex's small fingers tug desperately at my shirt, pulling me backward. "Dad, please don't," he whispers, his voice cracking with fear. "Don't open it." But it's too late. I twist the knob and pull the door open just enough to face her properly. Sarah stands on our porch, exactly as Alex had drawn her, the red jacket, the ponytail, those piercing green eyes that seem to look straight through me. "Hello, Michael," she says, her voice unnervingly calm. "May I come in? We have a lot to discuss." Alex ducks behind me, gripping my leg so tightly I can feel his fingernails through my jeans. I position myself firmly in the doorway, blocking her entry. "I don't know who you are or what you want," I say, trying to keep my voice steady, "but you're scaring my son, and I think you should leave." Sarah's expression softens as she looks past me toward Alex. "He's not your son, Michael, and his name isn't Alex." My stomach drops. "What are you talking about? I was Alex's foster mother for 3 years before you took him," she says, her eyes never leaving mine. "Before you moved across the country and changed his name." The weight of her words hits me like a physical blow. I think back to our move 2 years ago, how quickly we left Chicago for this quiet neighborhood on the West Coast. How I told Alex it was for a better job, a fresh start. "Dad," Alex whimpers from behind me. "Don't let her take me, please." I place my hand protectively on his head. "Nobody's taking you anywhere, buddy." Sarah sighs, reaching into her shoulder bag. "I've spent 2 years looking for him, Michael. Do you have any idea what you've done? You kidnapped him from my legal custody." "That's absurd," I snap, anger rising in my chest. "I'm his father. I have his birth certificate, his medical records, everything. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police." "Please do," she says, pulling out a folder. "Because I have court documents granting me legal guardianship of Ethan James Miller, the boy you're calling Alex." She holds up papers with official-looking stamps and signatures. I also have the police report I filed when you disappeared with him during our custody dispute. My mouth goes dry. I can feel Alex or Ethan trembling against my legs. You've got the wrong person, I say, but my voice lacks conviction. This is my son. Sarah's eyes narrow. I recognized him the moment his teacher posted his artwork on the school's parent portal. Those drawings of me, he's been trying to process what happened. Children do that, you know. They work through trauma in their art. I think of all those drawings, how they'd progressed from distant observations to her approaching our house. Alex had been warning me in the only way he knew how. You need to leave, I say firmly, taking a step back. Before she can respond, I slam the door and lock it, my heart hammering in my chest. Alex is crying now, his small body shaking with sobs. I kneel down and pull him into my arms, my mind racing. It's okay, buddy. It's going to be okay, I whisper, but I'm not sure I believe it myself. I carry him to the living room and set him on the couch, then grab my phone and scroll frantically for my lawyer's number. As I wait for the call to connect, Alex looks up at me with tear-stained cheeks. Dad, he says, his voice small and broken, I need to tell you something. I lower the phone, the ringing continuing in my ear. What is it, Alex? He wipes his nose with his sleeve, avoiding my eyes. She's telling the truth about some of it. The room seems to tilt around me. What do you mean? I remember her from before. His words come out in hiccuping sobs. And you're not my real dad. The phone slips from my hand and clatters to the floor. Through the window, I can see Sarah still standing on our porch, phone to her ear, watching the house, waiting. Alex, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. What do you remember? Tell me everything. He looks up at me, his eyes wide with fear and something else. Relief, maybe, at finally speaking the truth. I remember living with her, and then you came and took me away in the night. You said we had to hurry, that it wasn't safe anymore. My mind flashes back to that rainy night 2 years ago. The frantic packing, the long drive through the darkness, Alex sleeping in the back seat as miles of highway disappeared behind us. You said you were my dad now, Alex continues, his voice steadying. You said I had to forget my old name and be Alex forever. Outside, blue lights flash as a police car pulls up to the curb. Sarah points toward our house, speaking to an officer who stepped out of the vehicle. I look down at my hands, which won't stop shaking. Everything I've built, everything I thought I knew, is crumbling around me, and I have no idea what happens next. I stare at the front door, frozen in place as the doorbell rings again, followed by heavy knocking. Blue and red lights flash through our living room windows, casting strange shadows across Alex's tear-streaked face. My phone lies forgotten on the floor, the call to my lawyer disconnected. Police, open the door, a deep voice commands. Alex grabs my arm. Dad, they're going to take me away, he whispers, panic rising in his voice. Please don't let them. I kneel down, gripping his shoulders. Listen to me. Go to your room and hide in your closet. Don't come out until I call for you. Understand? He nods frantically before darting down the hallway. I take a deep breath, straighten my shirt, and open the door to find 2 officers standing beside Sarah. Sir, we're responding to a call about a custody dispute, says the taller officer, his hand resting casually near his holster. His nameplate reads, Officer Ramirez. May we come in? I step aside, my mouth dry. There's been a misunderstanding. The second officer, a woman with short blonde hair, scans the living room. Is the child here, sir? My son is in his room. He's upset by all this. I emphasize the word my as I lead them into the kitchen, away from the hallway where Alex is hiding. Sarah follows, clutching her folder of documents. Where is Ethan? I want to see him. His name is Alex, I snap, then force myself to calm down. Officers, this woman showed up at my door claiming my son belongs to her. I've raised him since he was an infant. Officer Ramirez holds up his hand. Let's start with documentation. Ma'am, you said you have custody papers? Sarah opens her folder, spreading several documents across my kitchen table. These court orders grant me legal guardianship of Ethan James Miller. Michael abducted him during our custody dispute 2 years ago and disappeared. The female officer, Bennett, according to her badge, studies the papers with narrowed eyes. These appear legitimate, but we'll need to verify them. She looks at me. Sir, do you have any documentation regarding your son? I nod, trying to hide my trembling hands as I retrieve Alex's birth certificate from my desk drawer. Here, this clearly shows I'm his father. Officer Bennett examines it, frowning slightly. This birth certificate is only a year old. We had to replace it after a house fire. I lie, the words tumbling out too quickly. The original was destroyed. Sarah scoffs. That's because it's fake. His real birth certificate lists his mother as Jessica Miller, my sister, and no father. That's absurd, I protest, but my voice wavers. Sarah reaches into her bag again, producing several photographs. These are pictures of Ethan Alex, as you call him, with me and my family. She spreads them across the table, and my stomach drops as I see Alex, slightly younger but unmistakable, sitting on Sarah's lap at what appears to be a birthday party. Officer Ramirez studies the photos. Sir, can you explain these? Before I can answer, the doorbell rings again. Officer Bennett moves to answer it, returning moments later with Mrs. Garcia, Alex's teacher, looking flustered and concerned. I heard the police radio chatter, she explains, then freezes when she sees Sarah. Oh my God, you're the woman from Alex's drawings. Sarah steps forward. Mrs. Garcia? I'm Sarah Miller. I've been looking for my nephew for 2 years. Mrs. Garcia looks between us, confusion evident on her face. I don't understand what's happening. Did Alex ever mention his previous name to you? Sarah asks gently. Or anything about his life before moving here? Mrs. Garcia hesitates, glancing at me apologetically. He once mentioned being called Ethan. I thought it was just pretend play. The room spins around me as Officer Ramirez says, "Sir, we're going to need to speak with your son." He's scared, I protest. This is traumatizing him. Sarah's eyes flash with anger. You want to talk about trauma? Try having your child stolen from you. Try spending every holiday wondering if he's safe, if he's happy, if he even remembers you. Officer Bennett places a hand on my shoulder. Where is the boy, sir? I'm about to answer when Officer Ramirez, who had wandered toward my home office, calls out, "Bennett, you need to see this." We all move toward the office, where Ramirez is holding open my desk drawer. Inside lies a stack of passports and driver's licenses, all with my photo, but different names. Care to explain this, sir? He asks, his hand now firmly on his holster. I can explain, I stammer, but there's no explanation that won't incriminate me further. Sarah pushes past me. Ethan, she calls out. Ethan, it's Aunt Sarah. Where are you, sweetheart? His name is Alex, I shout, desperation taking over. You can't just come into my house and... Dad! Alex's voice cuts through the chaos as he emerges from his hiding place, tears streaming down his face. They found my drawings at school, didn't they? That's how she found us. Officer Bennett kneels down to Alex's level. Hi there, we just want to make sure everyone's safe. Can you tell me your name? Alex looks at me, then at Sarah, his small chest heaving with sobs. My dad calls me Alex. And before that, Officer Bennett prompts gently. The silence stretches for what feels like eternity before Alex whispers, Ethan. Sarah steps forward, reaching for him. Ethan, do you remember me? Your Aunt Sarah? Alex backs away, pressing himself against my legs. Don't let her take me, Dad, please. Officer Ramirez sighs heavily. Sir, given the evidence and the child's statement, we need to take him into protective custody until this situation is sorted out. No! Alex screams, wrapping his arms around my waist. No! I want to stay with my dad! I drop to my knees, hugging him fiercely as Officer Bennett approaches. Alex, listen to me. I will fix this. I promise. But you need to go with the officers right now. You promised we'd never be separated, he sobs, his fingers digging into my shirt as Officer Bennett gently tries to pull him away. You promised! I know, buddy, I know. My voice breaks as they finally separate us, Alex's screams echoing through the house as they carry him toward the door. Sarah watches, tears in her eyes. I never wanted it to happen this way. I look up at her, defeated. Then why did you do this? Because he's my family too, she says simply. And you stole him from me. As they lead Alex to the police car, his cries piercing the night air, Officer Ramirez turns to me. Sir, we're going to need you to come with us as well. There are serious questions about identity theft and potential kidnapping charges. I barely hear him as I watch Alex's small face pressed against the car window, his hand reaching out toward me as they drive away. Everything I've done, every lie I've told for the past 2 years was to protect him, and now I've lost him anyway. The fluorescent lights in the police station hurt my eyes. I've been sitting in this interrogation room for 3 hours, my wrists raw from the handcuffs. Through the small window in the door, I can see officers walking back and forth, occasionally glancing in my direction. Somewhere in this building, Alex or Ethan is talking to a social worker, probably terrified and confused. Water? Officer Ramirez sets a paper cup in front of me. I ignore it. When can I see my son? That's what we're trying to determine. He sits across from me. The child welfare specialist is interviewing him now. You understand the severity of these allegations, right? Identity fraud, kidnapping. I need to explain to Alex what's happening. You mean Ethan? I clench my jaw. His name is Alex now. The door opens, and Sarah walks in with a woman in a pantsuit who introduces herself as Detective Morgan. Sarah's eyes are red-rimmed, but her posture is rigid with determination. Michael, Sarah says, sitting down. I think it's time you told the truth. I've already asked for my lawyer. I lie, knowing I haven't. A lawyer would only complicate things, drag this out longer, while Alex sits alone somewhere. Detective Morgan flips open a folder. Actually, you haven't. And given what we've found, talking might be in your best interest. What do you want to know? I ask, defeated. Let's start with who you really are to Alex, or should I say Ethan? I stare at my hands. I'm the only father he's known for the past 2 years. Sarah leans forward. Tell them who his mother was, Michael. The room seems to shrink around me. Jessica, I whisper. Jessica Miller. My sister, Sarah adds, her voice breaking. Jessica was my sister, and Ethan is her son. Detective Morgan makes a note. And your relationship to Jessica was? We were married for 4 years. The words feel strange coming out of my mouth after so long. We divorced 6 months before she died. Sarah's eyes flash with anger. And after the divorce, when Jessica was struggling with addiction, the court granted me temporary custody of Ethan while she went to rehab. She was getting better, I say, the memory of Jessica's smile during our last visit surfacing unexpectedly. She was 3 months sober when she relapsed and overdosed, Sarah finishes, and instead of letting Ethan stay with me as the court ordered, you took him in the middle of the night and disappeared. The door opens again, and I'm surprised to see my sister, Olivia, being escorted in by Officer Bennett. Her face is pale, her eyes wide with shock when she sees me. Liv, I breathe. How did you? The police contacted me, she says quietly. They found my number in your phone. Detective Morgan turns to her. Miss Reynolds, thank you for coming. We understand you may have information about your brother's situation. Olivia looks at me, her expression a mixture of disappointment and sadness. Michael called me the night he took Ethan. He was frantic, saying he needed to protect him, that it wasn't safe. Sarah stiffens. Not safe? He was with me. I loved that boy like my own son. It wasn't about you, I say, finally looking directly at Sarah. It was about Robert. The color drains from Sarah's face. My husband had nothing to do with this. Tell them, Sarah. My voice hardens. Tell them about the bruises I found on Alex's arms when I picked him up for my weekend visit. Tell them about the nightmares he had, the way he flinched whenever a man raised his voice. Olivia steps closer. Michael told me everything. He showed me photos he'd taken of Ethan's injuries. I told him to go to the police, but he was afraid they wouldn't believe him over Robert, who was a respected pediatrician. The room falls silent. Detective Morgan turns to Sarah. Is this true? Was your husband abusing the child? Sarah's hands tremble. Robert would never. He loves children. He works with them every day. That's what made it worse. I say quietly. He knew exactly how to hurt Alex without leaving obvious marks. And you, I look at Sarah, my anger finally breaking through. You knew. You had to know. I didn't, she whispers. But there's doubt in her eyes. Detective Morgan signals to Officer Bennett, who leaves the room. A few minutes later, she returns with a tablet and places it in front of us. We've reviewed security footage from the Miller residence during the time Ethan was living there. Officer Bennett explains, this was submitted as evidence in a separate investigation of Dr. Robert Miller 6 months ago. She presses play, and we watch grainy footage of a man Robert grabbing a small boy by the arm, dragging him into a room, closing the door. Minutes later, the door opens, and Robert emerges alone. The timestamp shows 2:14 a.m. Sarah covers her mouth. I was working night shifts at the hospital. I never saw. There's more, Officer Bennett says grimly. Dr. Miller is currently under investigation for similar allegations from 3 other children who were his patients. I feel sick. I tried to tell you, Sarah. I called you that night, but you refused to believe me. You said I was making it up to get custody. Sarah's shoulders slump. I thought you were just bitter about the divorce, about Jessica choosing me to care for Ethan during her rehab, so I took him. I admit, I packed whatever I could grab and drove west. I changed our names, got new documents through people I knew from my time in IT security. I told Alex that I was his father now, that we had to forget the past to be safe. Olivia places a hand on my shoulder. He did what he thought was right to protect Ethan. Detective Morgan closes her folder. We'll need DNA samples to confirm paternity, though it seems clear from these statements that you're not the biological father. I'm the only father he knows now, I say quietly. Blood doesn't make you a parent. The door opens again, and a woman with a kind face enters. I'm Marjorie Klein, the child welfare specialist who interviewed Ethan, or Alex, as he prefers to be called. How is he? I ask immediately. Confused, scared, she sits down, but very clear about certain things. He remembers living with his Aunt Sarah and Uncle Robert. He remembers being afraid of his uncle, especially at night. Sarah makes a small, wounded sound. He also said that his dad, meaning you, Mr. Reynolds, saved him from the bad man and promised to keep him safe forever. Miss. Klein looks at me with a measured gaze. He's been drawing pictures for months of the woman in the red jacket because he was afraid she'd find you and take him back to his uncle. I close my eyes, remembering all those drawings, the warning signs I'd misinterpreted. What happens now? Maber. Detective Morgan exchanges glances with Miss Klein. That's complicated. You committed serious crimes, Mr. Reynolds, but given the circumstances and the evidence regarding Dr. Miller's behavior, the district attorney will need to consider all factors. And Alex? I ask, my voice breaking. For now, he'll be placed in temporary custody while we sort this out, Miss Klein says gently. Given the complex nature of this case, we need to ensure his safety and well-being above all else. Sarah stands suddenly. I want to see the rest of that security footage. I want to know exactly what Robert did. Her voice is steel now, her hands steady. If he hurt Ethan, if he hurt my nephew, I will never forgive myself for not seeing it. As they lead me back to my cell, I catch a glimpse of Alex sitting in a room down the hall, clutching a stuffed dinosaur someone must have given him. Our eyes meet briefly before Officer Bennett guides me away. Dad, he calls out, his voice small but clear. I turn back, my heart breaking. It's going to be okay, Alex, I promise. And despite everything, the handcuffs, the charges hanging over me, the uncertain future, I know I'd do it all again to keep him safe, because that's what fathers do, biological or not. The emergency custody hearing feels like a blur. I sit stiffly in my chair, trying to focus on the judge's words as she reviews the mountain of evidence spread across her desk. The courtroom is smaller than I expected, intimate almost, making it impossible to hide from the weight of everyone's stares. Mr. Reynolds, Judge Winters says, peering at me over her reading glasses, the charges against you are extremely serious. Kidnapping, identity fraud, crossing state lines with a minor, these typically carry substantial prison sentences. My lawyer, a public defender named Marcus, who I met only 3 hours ago, shifts uncomfortably beside me. I stare at my hands, unable to look at Sarah sitting across the aisle with her attorney. However, the judge continues, the evidence regarding Dr. Robert Miller's abuse of the child formerly known as Ethan Miller presents significant mitigating circumstances. I glance up, hope flickering for the first time since they separated me from Alex 2 days ago. Your Honor, Sarah's attorney interjects. My client had no knowledge of her husband's actions. She was working night shifts at the hospital during the documented incidents. Judge Winters holds up her hand. Miss Miller, the security footage from your home suggests a pattern of abuse that occurred over months. While you may not have witnessed it directly, the court finds it difficult to believe you saw no signs whatsoever. Sarah's shoulders slump as she stares at the floor. She looks different today, smaller somehow, without the righteous anger that fueled her when she first appeared at our door, in that red jacket that haunted Alex's drawings. Where is Alex now? I ask, unable to contain myself any longer. Marcus places a warning hand on my arm, But Judge Winters answers anyway. The child is currently with your sister, Mr. Reynolds. Miss Olivia Reynolds has been granted temporary custody during these proceedings. Relief washes over me. At least he's with family, someone he knows, not lost in the foster care system, or worse, back with Sarah. The courtroom doors open, and Detective Morgan enters with a folder. She approaches the bench and speaks quietly to Judge Winters, who nods gravely before addressing the room. I've just been informed that Dr. Robert Miller was taken into custody this morning. 3 additional victims have come forward, all former patients between the ages of 5 and 8. Sarah makes a choked sound, covering her mouth with her hand. Furthermore, the judge continues, a search of Dr. Miller's home office uncovered photographic evidence of abuse involving multiple children, including images of Ethan Alex from 2 years ago. My stomach churns. I'd known Robert was hurting Alex, had seen the bruises, the fear in his eyes, but hearing there's photographic evidence makes me want to vomit. I'd gotten him out just in time, but not soon enough to spare him completely. In light of this development, Judge Winters says, I'm inclined to view Mr. Reynolds' actions as those of a desperate individual trying to protect a child from harm, albeit through illegal means. The district attorney stands. Your Honor, while we acknowledge the circumstances, we cannot simply ignore multiple felonies. The state is prepared to offer Mr. Reynolds a plea deal, probation and community service in exchange for a guilty plea to custodial interference. And Alex? I ask, my voice breaking. What happens to him? That remains to be determined, the DA says. But given the evidence against Dr. Miller and Miss Miller's potential culpability, we're not opposing your sister's continued custody of the child for the time being. Judge Winters calls a brief recess, and Marcus leads me to a small conference room. This is the best outcome we could hope for, he says. Take the deal. I don't care about myself, I tell him. I just want to make sure Alex is safe, that he stays with me. One step at a time, Marcus advises. First, let's keep you out of prison. When we return to the courtroom, Sarah is already seated. Her eyes are red-rimmed, her hands trembling as she arranges papers in front of her. Before we continue, Judge Winters announces, Miss Miller has requested to make a statement. Sarah rises slowly. Your Honor, she pauses, struggling to find words. I need to tell the truth. I suspected something wasn't right with Robert's behavior toward Ethan. There were nights when I'd come home from my shift and find Ethan crying in his bed. When I asked what was wrong, he'd say Uncle Robert checked on me. I told myself it was normal, that Robert was just being attentive. She turns to look at me directly. Michael tried to tell me. He called me the night before he took Ethan, begging me to listen. I refused to believe him because it meant admitting I'd failed to protect my sister's child. The courtroom falls silent as Sarah's admission hangs in the air. I'm withdrawing my custody petition, she continues, and I'll cooperate fully with the investigation into Robert's crimes. 6 months later, I stand in the doorway of Alex's new bedroom, watching as he arranges his stuffed animals on his freshly made bed. The room is painted blue, his choice, with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Our new house is smaller than our old one, but it's ours, free from the ghosts of our past. Dad, Alex calls, noticing me watching. Can we put up my drawings? I walk over to help him with the stack of artwork we've collected from his therapy sessions. Dr. Lawson, his child psychologist, suggested art therapy to help Alex process everything that happened. For months, his drawings were dark, shadowy figures and scared faces, but lately, they've changed. Where should we put this one? I ask, holding up his newest creation, a colorful scene of 2 figures standing in front of a house with a big tree in the yard. That's us, Alex says proudly. You and me at our new home. I notice there's no woman in a red jacket lurking in the background, no fearful eyes peering from windows, just us, standing together under a bright yellow sun. The legal battle was messy. I took the plea deal, 2 years probation and community service for custodial interference. Robert Miller is awaiting trial on multiple counts of child abuse, facing decades in prison. Sarah pleaded guilty to child endangerment and received probation. She's in therapy now, trying to understand how she missed the signs, how she failed to protect her nephew. The DNA test confirmed what we already knew. I'm not Alex's biological father, but biology doesn't make a family. Love does. After extensive interviews with social workers, character references from Mrs. Garcia and others, and Alex's own insistence that he wanted to stay with me, the court granted me legal guardianship 3 weeks ago. Dad? Alex looks up at me as we finish hanging his artwork. Are we safe now? For real? I kneel down to his level, meeting his eyes. Yes, buddy. We're safe now. No more running, no more hiding. And I don't have to change my name again? He asks, his small face serious. No, you're Alex Reynolds now, officially and forever. He throws his arms around my neck, hugging me tightly. I like being Alex better than Ethan anyway. As I hold him, I think about the journey that brought us here, the fear, the desperate midnight escape, the false identities, the constant looking over my shoulder. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat to keep him safe. Later that night, after tucking Alex in, I find him sitting up in bed with his sketchbook and crayons. One more drawing before sleep? I ask, sitting on the edge of his bed. He nods, focusing intently on the page. It's for you. When he finishes, he hands it to me with a shy smile. It's a simple drawing of 2 stick figures, holding hands, one tall, one small. Above them, written in careful 6-year-old handwriting, are the words, my dad. No qualifiers, no explanations, just the simple truth, as Alex sees it. And really, what else matters?